A woman machinist, a skilled worker in what has traditionally been a man's job. In 1923, when a woman named Alice Paul penned the first Equal Rights Amendment and submitted it to Congress, a scene like this would have been unthinkable. And indeed, it is still unthinkable to many people today, which is perhaps why after 57 years of trying to put women in the United States Constitution, adoption of the Equal Rights Amendment has reached an impasse. Passed by the Congress in 1972, following years of debate, testimony, and hearings, the amendment simply states, "Equality of rights under the law shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of sex." The amendment would also give the federal government the power to enforce that principle. Within 2 years, 30 of the necessary 38 states had ratified the ERA. Iowa was the fourth state to do so. But after that initial sweep, the opposition began to marshal its forces, and the drive for ratification ground to a halt as it faced determined resistance. At this debate, speaking against the ERA is Phyllis Schlafly, national chairman of Stop ERA and national president of the Eagle Forum. Speaking for the amendment is Peg Anderson, state chairperson of the Iowa ERA Coalition and a member of the Iowa Commission on the Status of Women. Here is moderator Diane McCumber.
The next question is, what would be the effect of the Equal Rights Amendment on employment and on equal pay for equal work? Mrs. Schlafly?
The biggest myth connected with the Equal Rights Amendment is that it has something to do with equal pay for equal work. It doesn't. Go back and read the language of it. It does not prohibit discrimination by private industry. It doesn't say anything about jobs. What it does is to prohibit discrimination by the United States or by any state. And so the only thing that ERA would do in the employment field is to make sure that the laws are sex equal. Now, the employment laws are already sex equal. We have the Equal Pay Act. We have the Equal Employment Opportunity Act of 1972, which prohibits discrimination in the job market on account of sex. And this applies to hiring, to pay, and to promotions. There's a whole federal bureau enforcing this. It's called the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. And they're enforcing it so aggressively that they are even requiring businesses to give women the benefit of affirmative action. And there are many cases on record where they have required businesses to give the job to the less well-qualified woman in preference to the more qualified man in order to achieve their affirmative action quota. They have gotten enormous multi-million-dollar settlements against the biggest companies in our land. $38 million against AT&T, $30 million against the steel companies.
At the present time, only about 61% of the jobs in this country are covered by the Equal Pay Act. There are many government jobs that are not covered. The Equal Rights Amendment will affect those government jobs that are not now covered by the Equal Pay Act. Also, the Equal Rights Amendment, in regard to all of the laws, has a sense of reinforcing the principle that is behind those laws. It gives recognition to the fact that this society does mean, in fact, that we shall not differentiate and distinguish and discriminate on the basis of sex in the areas of jobs and employment and opportunity. It does not cause those laws to, it does not interfere in the private sector, that is correct. But it gives a psychological and philosophical basis for the other laws that are involved with the private sector. The equal pay and the other laws dealing in this area that are in the area of government would be reinforced by the Equal Rights Amendment. I think one of the things that we have to recognize in Iowa is that we do have many very fine laws in Iowa. We have had a progressive legislature in the last 4 to 8 years that have done a great deal about removing discrimination from our laws. But the Equal Rights Amendment will give a permanence to that. It will guarantee for the future the principles that have been passed in those laws now. Without an Equal Rights Amendment, there is no guarantee for our sons and daughters of the equality of rights that we want for them now.